Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Board Games Hitting My Table. So in this series I take a look at all of the games that I have been playing over the last couple of weeks. This episode covering the first half of November 2023. Now I've played some absolute bangers, so I'm looking forward to talking about these games. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in my show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. But let's start with the first of the bigger games that I have played. This is Pulsar 2849. So it's been quite a while since I have tabled this game. You know, me and my friends have been talking about getting this one back as soon as possible. So we managed to do that, and we prioritised getting this one played. You might have noticed on my channel I very rarely play sci-fi themed games. Just don't really appeal to me very much, but this one is a Vladimir Suki design. I tend to really like his games, and it's a dice drafting game where you have a plethora of options at all times. However, you have very limited opportunities to get everything done. And it has one of the coolest initiative mechanisms that I've ever seen, where if you're drafting these stronger powered dice, then you are going to fall down on tracks such as the initiative order, or the ability to get these resource cubes, which are really powerful, which let you get kind of endgame scoring abilities, or even let you buy extra turns in the game by using these bonus dice. And you're flying around the map here, you're investing in these really interesting technologies, getting these little gyrodyne things spinning to give you ticking points to generate you victory points. Really is a ton of different pathways you can go down here. And this game we played was really interesting because we went for very different routes in terms of how we approached the game. You know, I was very much focusing on gyrodynes to begin with, and then I was focusing on the little transmitters because I had some technologies that synergized with that. Whereas my opponents were really focusing on flying around the map a bit more and trying to get the kind of set collection points you can get that way. And it was very interesting because at the end, after all was said and done, we were within very small increments with each other in terms of the victory points. So very well balanced game, and it really does keep you on your toes with so much to do at all times. So I loved getting that one back to the table. We also played a 3-player game of The Rich and the Good. So I've only recently acquired this game actually. It did rank really well in my most recently uploaded ranked video. It's a very simple economic game that I haven't reviewed yet. I'll probably review as part of a compilation soon. But if you watch my top 100, you might have noticed this one featured quite highly. It was probably in my 80s. It's a really cool kind of stock market style game, commodity speculation. You are investing and buying these different stocks and selling them based on this fluctuating market that you as the players will manipulate, because to your left and to your right, you have these cards which you're sharing with your neighbours, and they will have these different denominations on them, shifting the markets up and down. One of them is going to go the full amount, and the other one you choose from the other rack is going to go half of the amount. And you're trying to manipulate the board state to suit you and hopefully hurt the other players and make them waste their money. Very simple. It has a cool twist on it, which is similar to a game called High Society, where in this one you ought to be stashing away certain amounts of money each round, because at the end of the game, whoever has stashed the least amount of money and given it to charity, then you are going to be automatically eliminated. And this was a very interesting game we played actually, because one of my opponents was doing very well, financially. First half of the game they were kind of pulling away in terms of the charity money as well. And right at the end, I think it was a very small margin of them actually being the least, or having donated the least. So they could have been automatically eliminated if they weren't careful, but they just managed to scrape through. And we actually drew in that game as well. So we had the tiebreaker. In fact, I don't think there is a tiebreaker, and we still drew. So it's quite a rare occasion there. I managed to play a 4-player game of Wits and Wagers, a game that, again, I haven't played for such a long time, despite me loving this party game, and I had an absolute blast playing these couple of games. And this is like a trivia game where all of the answers are based on numbers. You are writing your guess on this dry erase board and putting them on this kind of track. And the extremities of these guesses will be worth higher odds. But the cool thing about this is that you do not actually need to know the answers yourself, because you can bet your winnings on other people knowing the answer. It's a bona fide classic, and I'd say if you regularly have a lighter board game audience or kind of get-togethers, this is like almost an essential because it is that good, and I love it. Back to the Euros though, we played a 2-player game of Anno 1800. So this one, Martin Wallace design, actually. So this is like a proper tech tree climbing style game, as you are trying to manage this hand of cards and try to give them what they want on those cards based on this huge resource board. And basically all these goods will start basic and work their way up to the more extravagant and more elaborate style goods, but going through these tech trees. So you do need to do a lot of fore-planning here, but the twist is that when you start gaining more workers to manufacture you more goods, you get more cards. So there is quite a cool and steep game arc here that you need to kind of overcome that hump and then know when to kind of not get any more staff and then start, trying to plow through those cards. There's some good interaction as well, as you can piggyback off your opponent's technologies, but have to give them gold in the process, which allows them basically to be a bit more efficient because they don't need to spend their whole turns refreshing their workers. So a true efficiency puzzle here. I really enjoyed this play, and it was a very close game. But I think I'm at this point now where I've seen Anno 1800. I know what it has to offer. I feel like I've played it, and I'm probably ready to move on from it. But I certainly wouldn't let that detract you from trying this one if you like your very strategic style Euros. And staying on the last of the bigger games, we played a 2-player game of Tetum. So Tetum, one of my favourite games of modern years. It's absolutely outstanding Tashini and Luciani co-design. Another dice drafter. Uses that very cool mechanism of the more resources you take from these dice, the weaker action you get corresponding to that, and vice versa. So stronger action, fewer resources, more resources, weaker action. You're traversing this board, visiting these locations, building churches, trying to be in the right place at the right time for these end of round bonuses, which was the kind of differentiating point in this game for me and my opponent. I think one of the opportunities I did well on earlier, which left my opponent, it made it quite difficult for them to make up the ground. They did make up some ground, but not quite enough. But this one is a real throwback style Euro, which I think is, this is like the sweet spot for me, how I like my Euros. Deep and rich, but without many rules, ambiguities or complexities. So yeah, this one's like a top 20, top 25 game for me. I played a 3-player game of Framework. So this is the kind of newest version of the Nova Luna mechanism, as you're trying to tie these tiles together and trying to achieve as many objectives as you can through these frames. I'm normally not very good at this game, but this most recent game I actually won, and there was one particular placement. I think I ended up placing like 5 of my completion discs, which is quite rare. After that, I did flounder a bit, and my opponents made up some ground, but I just got past the finish line. I managed to squeeze a win out of this one, but a really nice puzzly game if you haven't tried that one. I played a 3-player game of Rome in a Day. Very pleasant little tile placement game. With the I Split You Choose mechanism, as you're dividing up these tiles behind your screen, some of the tiles have buildings on them. The buildings will go next, or you're trying to get the buildings next to or onto tiles of the matching colour to score points, basically. Very simple stuff, extremely light, but there is something charming and very pleasant about this little game. It's been a hit for me, and it's actually growing on me as well. So the more I play it, the more I like Rome in a Day. A game that's getting a lot of spotlight on my channel recently is Dragon Keepers. So I think I played another 3-player game of this one, maybe a 2-player game as well. So this one is brand new, hot off the press, card game. Quite light, and I'm not sure if a lot of the people going into this game are realising how light it actually is. But it's a kind of a game you're trying to score points based on playing sets of these dragons. But the sets change based on the cards that you draft. So there's kind of like these 2 cards you can draft. One of them on the back of these cards has the number of dragons that you're trying to play, and the other one is the type of dragon. And you're trying to kind of manipulate that so that it suits the cards in your hand to cash them in and score points in a ton of different ways. Now, if this appeals to you, I would highly recommend you check out my review because I go into some detail here. But out of all the games I recommend quite highly, this one I think is not landing with everybody because, again, you do have to factor in that this is quite a lucky and light game, you know, almost feather light, but it does have a few little wrinkles that just get it through the finish line for me. That is Dragon Keepers. I played another game of Nalia, so just a quick 2-player game of that one. And this is another game that I'm not normally good at. And I think this time I had like the perfect arrangement of cards. Quite a simple bunch of objective that I drew randomly. And I ended up pretty much maxing my score out and actually going around the board a couple of times on the score track. So that was a bit of a write-off, but I still did enjoy that one. I played a 4-player game of Spicy. So I introduced this game to my dad for the first time, who's not much of a gamer, and it went down extremely well. All had a really good time playing with my family. This lovely bluffing game, just trying to shed cards from your hand, call people out on their lies if you believe they are lying. And yeah, I seem to be on a bit of a dry patch on this game because whatever challenge I'm doing, I seem to be wrong on. But yeah, love this bluffing game. One of the best bluffing games out there. I played a 4-player game of The Number. Another it's kind of a nebulous style game as you are writing these numbers down on these dry erase boards. You're putting them in numerical order and you're trying to have the kind of highest unique arrangement of numbers to score you points. But the more you score, the more your options are restricted. Another somewhat polarizing game. Some people love it. Some people think it's just pure, you know, fighting in the wind style game, no strategy, just roll with the punches, see what happens. I can understand that, but I also do like that extra twist of your options being dwindled down as you play and the risks you might take, and even trying to trap other players into playing certain numbers and making them score nothing. To an old classic now, we played a 2-player game. It's a 2-player only game of Hana Mikoji. I played this, actually had a really tight game of this. I think we got through the first round on a tie break, and then on the second one, I think I managed to get the geishas, but my opponent managed to get the charm points, which is like another tiebreaker. So a very close game. Another I Split You Choose one, an absolute favourite of the channel that I've been speaking about for years, so I won't talk about it much longer, but it's still holding up strong and one of the best 2-player card games on the market. I played a 2-player game of Sunset Over Water. I still do need to review this one and a couple of the other games in the series, which I'll actually talk about together. So I also played some more delicious and some more floriferous. So yeah, I really am enjoying this series by Pencil First. Again, I am going to do a video probably ranking them and giving a brief review of them all. Delicious is more of a kind of flip and write style game, quite restrictive. Getting better at it though, the more I play it, the more I am kind of knowing how to pace myself and use the bonuses a bit better. And Floriferous is one of my favourite little set collection game. Absolutely lovely little drafting game with a cool kind of initiative mechanism. Taught this one to someone who's not much of a gamer, and it went down really well. And Sunset Over Water, I'm not sure if I'm calling on this one a little bit, but I think it's not quite hitting the height of Floriferous. But a still really nice little grid movement style game with a cool initiative system, picking up cards, trying to cash them in to get contracts. So yeah, really enjoying this little filler game, well, a series of filler games, I should say. So going back to a real old school style 2-player filler game, Battle Line by Rainer Knizia. So this one is a very tight and almost frustrating style game as you are playing multiple hands of poker to try and claim these flags. You're playing 3-card hands and you're trying to have the strongest arrangement of cards when those flags come to cash out. But inevitably you have a small hand of cards. Whenever you commit these certain poker hands, sometimes you might pick up that perfect card a bit later than you wanted to, or you might be holding the cards that are the final piece of the puzzle of your opponent's strategy. It's a wonderfully designed game. It does feel like a true evergreen. Like, this game is, I think it's like 20, 30 years old. It still feels very fresh to me, and I enjoy it. You know, one of the first games I had in my collection, and I still, you know, have the desire to get this back to the table, which is a good thing. And this was another game, I think it came right down to the end. I was forced to play some cards that would ruin my hands, and it managed to give the win to my opponent, just through the way the cards came out and how I paced myself. But wonderful game. And speaking of wonderful two-player games, we played a two-player game of Mandala, and we just played this as a little stopgap before another player made it to the games night. And this is a game that I'm generally pretty good at. I think up until this game, I've won every single one. So my perfect record is now broken. So woe is me. But this is a lovely little kind of another set collection style game, but you're using these cards that you're collecting to actually bid for the cards in the first place. The sets go up in increasing points values, which I think is a great mechanism. And then you're basically, you're blocking people out, and because you can only play one type of card into each of these mandalas. Absolutely smooth as silk, simple rule set, tough decisions, and just almost perfect when it comes to a two-player card game. So that is Mandala. Just a couple more games that I don't have here in my own collection because they're friends' copies. I played a three-player game of Five Tribes. Five Tribes, again, I'm not mad about it, to be honest. I find it way too tactical. But I actually managed to squeeze a win out of this one, I think maybe for the first time. I do like this bidding system where you're bidding for initiative order because, you know, there's normally quite an obvious optimal play on the board, and you've got to be willing to pay points essentially in order to get that turn. So it was fine. I mean, I don't hate the game, but I don't really think much of it either. And I also played a game of Orléans, so a three-player game. This was a game I've had in my collection for a long time. I did part with it because I thought I'd played it out already. Played it too many times. And despite me thinking the game mechanically is ultra sound, I just feel like I've played it too many times now. I've seen it, and I don't really feel the need to go back to it because, again, I've just played it out. So still, really well-designed game. I tried some quirky strategies in this one, actually, because I normally do the same thing. I thought I'd try something else, and it managed to pay off through this kind of little engine I built with these building cards that I acquired, which let me kind of produce cheese and then sell cheese to climb up that multiplier track at the bottom of the board. So that is Orléans. That's it, really. That's all the games that I have been playing over the last couple of weeks. Again, really nice to get some of my favourites back to the table, you know, such as, you know, Pulsar and Tetum, The Rich and the Good, as well as some smaller games that are my favourites, such as, you know, Mandala and Battle Line. Thank you to everybody who has supported the channel through my recent top 100. It's done really well, and I will be releasing a video probably in the next few days talking about my beyond top 100, so every game with the commendation essentially. So I look forward to putting that one out, and hopefully you enjoy it. But if you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel, and check out my other content too. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.